Hello, so I'm Jacob from Garden Insights, Portland-based garden maintenance, and we're here today looking at this tree to determine if it is a Western red cedar, or Thuja plicata is a scientific name, but it also looks like an arborvitae, Thuja occidentalis, also known as Eastern white cedar, I think.
So that's my whole point, was that I wanted to know what I have in my backyard so that I know if I can make tea out of it. So I figured you, being the expert, would be able to tell me what I've got.
What's fun is that you can make tea out of both of them.
Oh, good!
So we don't have to figure out exactly which one we have for that matter, but it'd still be good to know. Looking at this plant, if we get a close-up, honestly, I would say get closer to the leaves. So this is more than just needles, right? It's not like a pine tree where you have individual needles. They're smaller leaves, and we call these types of leaves scale leaves. They are super duper tiny. So these are all individual leaves.
Oh!
Each of these little spears that stick out from the stem.
Okay.
These little triangles. And these are called scale leaves, and they're identifying features for the cypress family. So we have a tree that's in the cypress family. We know that for sure. So I might be able to get set up with something, and then I could show you exactly what the leaves are. So I have this great book I got from the library. We have a lot of great library books about native plant identification. This one is on conifers of the Pacific Northwest, and it actually walks you through how to identify specific cypress trees, how to identify specific pine trees. It tells you all of these different features about it. So we are going to go to the section of the book that mentions these cypress trees, because again, there's not individual needles. I took a podcasting course in college on science. It was really cool.
So podcasting and science as in the science of plants?
More like science communication. So that's what I'm really passionate about.
Science, so teacher then?
Yeah, I was a science teacher in high school in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for a couple of years, moved here in the summer. Alrighty. So here we have different types of cypress family plants. This book divides it first by foliage, flattened scales. That's what we have there. See, all the leaves look really similar, but if you look up close, they take on different shapes. You can actually look at chloroplasts and plant cells with this, depending on the leaf, if it's see-through enough, if it's thin enough. But when I was thinking about how I could show you how to identify this, I'm like, I want to be able to show Barb and other people how to look up close at the leaves. And I realized I have this fancy-dancy microscope. So I think how we're going to do this is I'm going to have you hold my phone, and you can look through your phone at my phone.
Okay.
Right? And then what we should be able to do is, with a white paper backdrop, is take one of these leaves, and we should be able to see the shape of the needles up close. And look at that.
Wow.
So we can also zoom out. Oh, it's zoomed out all the way. There we go.
It almost looks like a bug.
It does, right? So there's that one in the middle that's longer, and there's those two shorter nails on the side. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we remember what this looks like in our minds, we now have to open the book
Okay.
and compare it to that. So let's see, the Western red cedar is going to look like this, but that's different.
Yeah.
Because all of them are the same length in this photo.
I remember when I bought it, because I bought it at Portland Nursery.
Okay.
And I was looking for something that would grow tall and be an evergreen view break. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember what it was that I bought.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's if we can find a cone that is lower down.
Oh, you found one!
I did find one.
So there's the cone.
This is a male cone, I think.
I was told that if you take the leaves and crush them in your hands and it smells like pineapple, it's something. And these smell like pineapple.
Interesting, because the arborvitae also does.
It smells like pineapple?
It does smell like pineapple, yeah. So there's certain features that I'm still learning and getting familiar with. And I'm like, oh, I know how to use resources even if I'm not an expert in things.
Uh-huh.
Those look like that. But the individual, well, those are the stems, but if we look at the individual leaves, we do see that they're all the same size, or the same length. And they're pointed, so I bet it is... Would you say that these cones look like that?
Yeah, because they're brown and
They're brown and they're woody, but could it also look like that? It's interesting because it does look like the Western red cedar, but it doesn't have those white marks on it. And I've seen Western red cedars have those white marks before.
Are there other cedars that it might be? Oh yeah, here's some cones that are close to the ground,
great.
right there. Cone.
Hey Barb, you know what's really fun? I think this is a western red cedar.
Ooh, there's
After
the cones.
all of this work. Because the patches on the bottom aren't as distinct as I had expected them to be. Oh, we were doing something wrong with the identification.
We were? What
Yep.
were we doing?
So we were
Here's
looking too much at this elongated stem.
Yeah.
So if you look at the elongated stem, the leaf pattern that we were looking at is actually different than the actual individual scale leaves.
Oh.
Because this is a branch,
Yeah.
and these are the leaves.
Okay. So can we do this again?
We can, and we are going to look. Let's take a look at this photo first. Do we have enough light where we are right here? All right. So looking at this photo, it says cat's eye bloom. So these white patches represent places where basically where the leaf breathes, the little stomata, the openings of the bottom of the leaf where the plant exchanges gases with the air. In certain plants, they're consolidated in certain patches, and that's what these white patches are. And if we look closely, so we're now looking at one spike, two spikes on the side, and then one spike in the middle, and they're all the same length. So that's our visual. So now we're going to pull up the microscope.
So now we're going to take a look at that very leaf through the microscope.
And so we're not looking at the big leaves, we're looking at the smaller leaves. Yeah, see, there's no bloom, but the leaves are all the same length. And on the underside, the bloom is where it is. And I don't think I was on the underside. They look quite similar. Yeah.
That looks wider.
Yeah, you can see the bloom a little bit. The white streaks.
Yeah.
They say it's like a cat's eye bloom. I wish I had a finger right now to point to each place, but it's like there's two stripes coming out from the left side of the leaf on the outer pair, and on the inside there's streaks on the leaf as well.
Wow.
So I'd say we do have a western red cedar. As much of a big adventure we went on, so we were expecting to find something
Yes.
to identify the western red cedar. We didn't see that at first, but in comparing it to others, it couldn't be anything else, right? So what I'm expecting is that this is a western red cedar, but for some reason the white patches aren't very noticeable. And the other thing is we used the cones to identify it, and the cones didn't match anything else, and we also used the bark to identify it. So we used 3 different features, and although one wasn't as obvious as we'd hoped, it still became... The evidence supported only one type of tree. So I would say western red cedar, for sure.
Well, this is so interesting because from the science of it all, it does make you realize that you have to look at several pieces of data to be able to identify something for sure.
There's a lot of different, even cultivars of this tree. So cultivar stands for cultivated variety. So when you go to the store and you get things that are called a different name, or like Port Orford cedar is a whole different type of cedar, but there's this type of cedar has different versions that grow more compact or are a bit yellow on the ends.
Okay.
So those aren't natural varieties, but it can make identification a lot more difficult if you don't have the tag. So important tip is always keeping the tags. So even in the future, you can know what it is if something comes up about someone else wanting to get the plant, or if you have a disease that's happening to it and you don't know what it is, it makes it a lot easier if you know what that plant is.
Thank you. Well, other plants that I know about, I know this is a camellia.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Nice
a
spring
camellia.
beamer.
And it's supposed to be a bush, but as you can see, it's the size of a tree.
Yeah.
So from your science experience, if you've got a bush that's the size of a tree, is that from the climate? Is that why it grows so well here?
It could be a few different things. When you say it's supposed to be a bush, can you tell me why you say it's supposed to be a bush?
That's just what it's listed as.
Oh, gotcha. Do you know the variety of camellia it is?
I don't. It was here when we moved in.
That would be the thing. There's different varieties of camellias. Some will get bigger, some will get smaller.
Ah.
So it's most likely having to do with which variety of camellia it is, and this one just turns into a tree, even though maybe when it was planted, it was more of a smaller bush. So that's the other thing. If you weren't expecting to have a tree this big, making sure you plant something in the right place that you know the size of. And just like a lot of cedars and conifers, just like camellias, this is the same for a lot of manzanitas. I swear you could find a manzanita in every shape and size that you wanted, every dimension. So if you have a specific space, make sure you're finding a plant that is the specific size for that specific space.
Okay, when we moved in 35 years ago,
Yeah.
this was here.
How big was it?
Smaller.
Wow, that's incredible.
So
That's
I don't know if
amazing.
you can tell by the trunk how old it might be.
I could not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I think we'd have to cut it down.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
Exactly, so you can count the rings.
Yeah, okay. So I've got 2 western red cedars.
Yes.
I've got this is supposed to be a bay tree. When I first bought it, I was going to have it specifically to just use the leaves for eating. So I was thinking, well, I'll just keep it small. But then it kind of got away from us, and it has become a very huge tree between these other 2.
What type of bay is it? Is it a cooking?
Yes, it's a cooking bay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bay. Cool.
And what I love about this is that at seasonal times, or if there's like you want to get a gift for a friend instead of going out and buying something, I'll just come out and I'll pick a bouquet of bay and sage and rosemary and put a little ribbon around it and call it a gift.
I love that. Yeah, it's great you know what type of bay this is, and I was smelling the leaves because we have, I think California bay it is, that is a bit invasive and a bit aggressive and pops up in people's yards.
This one doesn't do that.
No, and when you smell it, this one actually smells nice. The California bay smells like gasoline a little bit, and it's the worst. So it's fun to crush plants and smell them to identify them as well.
Now, do you know what, I believe this is a calendula.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about this one. Do you have any idea what that is?
I don't, and when I run into a plant, I don't know what it is. Have you heard of the app iNaturalist at all?
iNaturalist, no.
It is a citizen science app where you can take a picture of things that you are unsure of, and using the location data in your phone, when it takes the picture, it compares it to other photos that people take in the area and says, I think your plant looks like this photo. And it does use AI, but nowadays AI has a different meaning. This is more, the photo looks at features of the plant and compares it using AI to other photos that people have taken in order to help you get a clue of what the plant is.
Okay.
And the point is, it's not comparing plants to that people have taken a picture of in China, because that might be a different plant.
Well, that's a good point, because I took a picture. I kept trying to get a good picture of this, now that we know it's a western red cedar plant, and the app on my phone couldn't identify it.
Oh, well, I'm curious what app
But
you're using,
it's whatever the photo app is, where you take a photo and then it like does a little outline around it.
Oh, yeah.
I have that on my phone.
Cool.
I think that's just an iPhone thing. So I don't know how accurate it is, obviously, because it couldn't recognize I couldn't even say it was a tree.
There's unfortunately a lot of discrepancy again around how accurate those apps are.
Yeah.
Because it provides you an answer, but if you do not have a great background or a lot of experience, you can't make a judgment on that suggestion that the app is giving you.
Whereas the app you said it specifically is going for plants in the area. So I like that.
Yeah, and you can also use other tools in terms of looking at the part. So when I took a picture of it, it mentions foxglove.
Foxglove, really?
Okay, we're going to take a look, because right now we're looking at the flower part of it, and we can look at the leaves. So things I'm noticing is that in this picture, the leaves are kind of reflective looking, and they look like that as well. And if you feel them, they're quite furry. So that original photo that we were comparing it to on iNaturalist looks like this. This is somebody else's photo, and this photo had enough information for someone to take a picture of it and suggest this identification of foxglove, but then a person who might know more about foxgloves looked at that photo and confirmed it. So that's what's great about the app. It's kind of citizen science, and in this photo, the leaves look a little bit glossy, as they do here. So this is most likely a result from these trichomes, the fact that the leaf is shiny only when you're looking down it, versus when the leaf is looking straight up. You can see it almost change. It's hard to tell in the camera, actually, that effect. You can see it better in person. But what would help us is if we take a closer look at those leaves with a microscope, we can see those hairs if we get up closer.
Oh, wow.
So some plants have this as an adaptation to deter pests. It also has been determined that it might help with sun exposure.
To protect it like a sunscreen?
Yes, like a sunscreen. So just like when we're looking at the plant and we see a white sheen, that is because the sun isn't hitting the leaf. It's being reflected into our eyes.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
So if it were getting absorbed by the leaf, we wouldn't see that light. But since we are seeing this sheen, we know that there is some light that is being reflected off. And all those hairs together kind of create like a little shady area, or just block the sunlight on the actual cells of the leaf.
We got rained out, so I had to stop the tape. But Jacob Ewert is available to give free talks on identifying evergreen plants. In fact, he does workshops in various libraries to help educate people on the trees that they have. You could like bring in a leaf or a branch or something from a tree that you're wondering what it is, or a plant that you're wondering what it is. Jason is a high school teacher, middle school teacher, science teacher, but he also has started a business called Garden Insights, digital design and plant care. So if you need help with your garden, he gives a free 1-hour consultation for new clients. And he does long-term garden maintenance, nature-themed designs, and educational graphics and art. So I'll go ahead and put this information below as well, so that if you are interested in finding out more about him. He came out and did this for free for me. And it was very informational and educational, and I enjoyed myself. And I found out that I've got a Western red cedar, or a couple Western red cedars, which I'm really happy about. I hope you got some information as well today and enjoyed Jason's personality and the information that he had to share. Thanks for being with me today, and thanks for watching Barb Talks.